Cottonbush is one of those ones that in some ways I have a history with. Many years ago, probably 20 years ago, when we were doing prioritising weeds for the state, Cottonbush came up and we thought, well, this will never be a big problem. And about 5 years after that, some of our rangers started saying we're seeing it turning up along in Serpentine National Park, or well, younger along the rivers. And Cottonbush then was a classic example of a weed that sits around the place, builds up its numbers, and then explodes. And we're now, unfortunately, well and truly into the exploding phase. It's certainly a weed that I think early on people just thought, isn't it nice? It's got wanderer butterflies on it. You know, it's a nice looking plant. It doesn't really do anything. But it is now, because its seeds are spreading the wind, it produces huge amounts of seed. It's an asclepidaceae, which means it's quite toxic. The white sap that it produces contains a cardiac glycoside, which means it'll give you a heart attack if you eat too much of it. And it's what, of course, the wanderer butterflies use to stop things eating them. They eat the plant and then have the protection from other caterpillars and things getting on them.
Yes.
Cottonbush is probably one of the main things that having small land holdings has made worse in some ways. When there was big, because cattle or whatever, when you've got small land holdings, or a big landholder probably would have gone through and got rid of it. But with a whole lot of small landowners, you only need one person not to actually decide to control it, to means that you've got a huge seed load blowing in from everywhere else. So it's a contentious species, both in sense of, because some landowners don't control it, and that will, for many landowners, includes the government as well. It is a species that's very noticeable. So if you are controlling it on your patch, you'll notice your neighbour is not controlling it. It is one you can really pull out, though. You can actually just go through and pull the plants out and get rid of them. So it is one that in small infestations, it's quite possible to do it without herbicides or anything else to get rid of it. But in big infestations, of course, you do need to use herbicides on it. But I know Peel Harvey's got some diggers that you can use to pull with. So the bigger plants are more difficult when they're younger, but they are at least single stem. They won't regrow if they're pulled out. And if you can get rid of them, I think mechanically getting rid of them is probably one of the best ways to do it, because there'll always be plants hiding somewhere where it's hard to spray or find. So, and it's one that you can get a sense of achievement when you get rid of it too. You notice what you've done. So for people who are small landowners or volunteers or whatever, it is one of the plants that non-herbicide methods are good, because you do get a positive result relatively quickly from it. But it is also a species which is contentious because, not surprisingly, many of the landowners now noticing it wonder why the government doesn't do more about controlling it, and why it is declared, and why the government doesn't control it. But the issue is it's a C3, which is meant to be controlled by the landowners or the biosecurity groups and not the government. And that is tricky to explain to people. It's a declared plant, but there's no responsibility for the government which declared it to actually control it. If it's flowering or got seeds, yes, you need to burn it, because the seeds will mature, and you don't want that to happen. So you do need to either take the plant away and bury it, or do something with it, or burn it to make sure it doesn't seed, because it will seed if it's mature, and it's been pulled up, it'll continue through to flowering. When it's flowering, but before it sets seed, mostly it's seeding in late spring to summer. So you really want to get rid of it in winter and spring before you get, and then you haven't got the problem so much of having seeds going everywhere as well, and you can dispose of it. The trick about Cottonbush is that funny white sap that it's got within it is a way it maintains moisture. So that stores water that enables it to actually seed and flower. And also it's a deterrent for things eating it, but it is a way that plants can actually store water for and means if they have no rain or anything, they've got enough water stored in their stem so they'll continue through seeding and flowering. And that's why you need to burn it, because it's got natural tricks to make sure it can keep going.
Right.
It comes also from southern Africa, so it's ideally adapted to our climate, and it's ideally adapted to having a drought period and coping with drought. So it's one that is really well adapted to southern Western Australia.